Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something really profound, I think, and necessary. It's about recalibrating how we define success, especially in these high-stakes, high-pressure leadership roles.
We're diving into some fantastic source material here. It really analyzes this tension between modern leadership pressures and, well, a more enduring, sustainable idea of impact.
Right, and it all kicks off with this really powerful philosophical question. The sources ask, when all this is over, what will actually remain?
Exactly. Not the quarterly wins, not the applause, but the impact, the character, the lives you've actually changed.
That question just cuts right through all the noise, doesn't it?
Mm.
So our deep dive today is about why so many leaders, even the ones with huge vision and energy, find themselves totally depleted, discouraged.
Or dangerously misaligned.
Yeah. So our mission for you, the learner, is to unpack the cultural pressures that really distort our compass, and to look at the principles for building an impact that actually lasts, something that transcends temporary praise.
And that's the core conflict we have to get into. The difference between leaders who, burn bright for a moment, that flash in the pan leader,
Yeah.
and those who learn how to burn steady for a lifetime. The analysis is crystal clear on this. How you finish is so much more important than how you start.
So let's start right there with what the source material calls chasing the wrong finish line. It describes this moment of realization that often hits leaders really hard.
It does. It's when the work that once felt so noble, so driving, now just feels strangely hollow.
That hollowness, that's the warning sign, isn't it?
It's the sign that the finish line you were chasing has just sort of collapsed into smoke. And it's a really painful discovery, usually after you spent so much energy. The sources show that culturally, we've perfected the art of celebrating these deeply shallow achievements.
Yeah, and the material breaks down that mistake. It talks about these unconscious substitutions that leaders make.
Oh, this is so key.
We're conditioned to confuse visibility with value.
Yes. Or equating applause with, anointing or some kind of spiritual giftedness.
And maybe the worst one of all, mistaking simple quantitative growth with actual godliness or character.
And that cultural drift, it trains us. It trains us to trade that long, hard road of disciplined obedience for the shortcut of just perception management,
We become experts at looking successful.
instead of actually maturing into leaders who can last.
So to make it concrete, the sources list these counterfeit goals,
Hmm.
things like prioritizing success instead of faithfulness,
Or image instead of integrity.
demanding speed instead of steadfastness.
And, of course, valuing quantity over quality. Every time.
When you lay out those trade-offs, the result is, well, it's totally predictable, isn't it?
Completely. We end up accomplishing impressive things that, at the end of the day, don't have any enduring meaning.
And this is where that tension with the eternal perspective really comes in. We have that piercing challenge from the historical texts.
Right. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul?
That verse isn't just dismissing achievement. It's challenging the very measure of value itself.
Exactly. It's asking, if you have to sacrifice your character, your integrity, your inner life to hit some metric,
Yeah.
was that metric really worth it?
And the answer is pretty clearly no.
It's a resounding no. Heaven measures success with a completely different lens. The focus shifts entirely to the unseen, to the internal work. The sources conclude that what's really honored isn't the leader who arrived first or built the biggest thing.
Right.
It's the leader who remained faithful, consistently faithful to their purpose, even when no one was watching.
Okay, so that leads us to the cost of this misalignment. The source material labels today's leaders as the exhausted generation.
And it emphasizes that this burnout we're seeing everywhere, it's not just physical fatigue, it's a spiritual and emotional emergency, often hidden under a bright smile.
The exhaustion of chasing outcomes God never required.
Yes, and running at speeds the soul was just never built to sustain. We have to understand the psychological cocktail that creates this constant, unsustainable pressure.
The sources break it down into four main ingredients. First, this illusion of constant competence.
Yes. The feeling that as a leader, you must always project certainty, always know the next step, never ever show weakness.
But that's not what we see in the foundational stories, is it?
Not at all. I mean, you look at Moses stuttering, feeling totally inadequate, or Gideon hiding, doubting the mission. The requirement was dependency, not self-sufficiency. That pressure to always be competent is just a crushing weight.
Then there's the social media effect. Leaders living under this, I mean, it's an unblinking audience,
Yeah.
204/7,
It's relentless, and it compels you to build this curated version of yourself, a public strength that demands so much emotional energy,
which leads to,
private exhaustion, and fragmentation. The human soul just can't sustain two versions of itself, the public image and the private reality, without eventually breaking.
and that fragmentation gets worse with the third factor, the tyranny of comparison.
It's always been a temptation, but now it's constant. It turns your unique calling into this universal competition, and when you're competing, you can never truly rest.
The final ingredient kind of seals the trap. Identity entangled with output.
That's the one. When your worth equals your results, failure feels fatal. If you stop producing, you feel like you're disappearing. It's why so many leaders can't stop, even when their body and mind are screaming at them.
And all of this is accelerated by what the sources call the idol of hurry.
Hmm. Velocity has become the modern substitute for spiritual strength. Momentum is the new metric for health.
But if patience is a strategic advantage, like the sources argue, then doesn't that put leaders at a huge disadvantage against competitors who are all about breakneck speed? How do you reconcile that?
That is the central critical tension. The material argues that the very strategy of the opposition is to rush the leader. A hurried leader, they lose joy, they make reckless decisions.
They compromise.
They compromise their integrity. Hurried living is shallow living.
And the contrast with Jesus's model in the sources is just, it's astonishing.
It really is. I mean, think about it. He carried the weight of the world, but he was never described as being in a hurry. He moved slowly enough to notice the bleeding woman in a crowd.
To weep with Mary and Martha, to embrace children.
Yes. Divine impact, the sources conclude, is driven by spirit-led alignment and presence, not speed. He prioritized being present over just doing the next thing. That intentional slowness lets a leader see the vital human moments that a hurried pace always misses.
This brings us to the core recalibration then, shifting our metrics, moving from measuring movement to measuring meaning. Let's talk about the leader named Marcus from the source material.
Marcus is the perfect cautionary tale. I mean, by every public measure, the guy was a monumental success.
Right. We're talking surging attendance, $10 million rates for expansion.
Yeah, the social media was exploding, 50,000 followers. His influence was all quantified, and yet he's sitting alone feeling profoundly hollow, like a fraud. The metrics were accurate, but they were lying to him about his value.
That's the key, isn't it? Metrics measure activity, not anointing.
They quantify external movement, not internal meaning.
Mm.
What those spreadsheets just can't measure are the non-negotiables. Obedience, faithfulness, integrity.
Transformation, personal depth.
Exactly. So we have to grasp this difference between results and fruit. The sources are so clear on this.
Okay, so break that down. What are results?
Results are fast, they're visible, they're measurable, and they're often shallow. And crucially, you can manufacture results without any divine help at all. Just use skill, strategy, charisma. You can build something impressive while your character quietly falls apart.
And on the other side, you have fruit.
Fruit is slow work. It's invisible at first. It's rooted entirely in inner transformation, in character. And it's utterly impossible apart from dependence on a higher power. It's measured in decades, not weeks.
So it's more about who the leader is becoming.
Yes. It's about becoming more than achieving.
Which brings us back to that idea that sources highlight. The principle of remaining or abiding. That statement, apart from me, you can do nothing.
You can do nothing of eternal value. That's the key. Fruitfulness is the consequence of remaining connected, surrendered, dependent. It's not the result of sheer willpower.
So when you redefine the job description, you realize spiritual depth grows like a tree, not a wildfire.
It takes time, it takes weather, it takes roots. And we have to embrace that slow work of God, which often happens in the least glamorous parts of a leader's journey. The sources talk about the formative seasons, the desert, the exile, the pruning.
Those uncomfortable, slow, silent periods.
They are not setbacks. They're strategic investments. Think of Moses spending 40 years in Midian, Joseph in prison. These slow periods are designed to cultivate dependence, to refine your priorities. Patience isn't just a virtue, it's a strategic necessity for long-term sustainability.
All right, let's shift our focus to the final lap, to the way we finish. If success is measured by faithfulness at mile 40, not the applause at mile 20,
then we have to move beyond just personal accomplishment and toward generational impact. This is the difference between building a successful career and building a true legacy.
a legacy isn't just an accidental byproduct of success.
No, it's a divine strategy. It's a mandate. Leadership that only operates for the current quarter or for the current leader's tenure is incomplete leadership. The design is always to prepare and empower the next generation.
And the source material introduces this powerful concept of the multiplier effect.
Yes, and this radically shifts how we view that quiet, consistent leadership. The multiplier effect argues that steady, disciplined obedience creates a quiet ripple effect that far outlasts any immediate, visible flashiness.
It's captured in that mandate from Second Timothy, right, where Paul tells Timothy to pass teaching to faithful people who will be able to teach others also,
It's a four-generation chain of influence.
which means the success of the first generation is defined by the quality of the fourth.
Exactly. Leaders who invest deeply in mentoring and empowering others, they see their influence grow exponentially. Even if they remain quiet leaders operating below the radar, a real legacy isn't built on one superstar performance. It's built on a long chain of faithful investment in others.
So to build something that lasts, you have to invest beyond your own personal performance. The sources highlight two essential areas.
They do. Two things you have to institutionalize.
First is creating durable systems and structures. What does that look like?
It means creating frameworks, documented processes, training manuals, governance, things that preserve knowledge and multiply influence beyond the founder's tenure. Think of Nehemiah's strategic plan for rebuilding the wall. He built a system that worked even when he wasn't there.
And second, cultivating a robust culture. And this is more than just office vibes.
Oh, much more. This is a spiritual culture rooted in a shared vision, in transmitting values and deeply empowered teams. When your culture is rooted in faithfulness instead of performance anxiety, the whole organization becomes sustainable. Your impact can then outlive your physical presence. So as you synthesize all of this, the learner, this deep dive, really reveals a profound choice. A choice in how you're going to allocate your life, your leadership capacity.
You can chase the visible, the quick, the self-validating metrics of our current age.
Or you can embrace the slow, the hidden, the multiplying work of faithfulness.
And the ultimate paradox here is that the leaders future generations will thank, the ones they'll be inspired by. They won't be the ones who sought glory or breakneck speed.
No, it'll be the ones who ran steady, the ones anchored in integrity, the ones who consistently chose character over charisma. It's about changing the definition of winning. That slow, intentional investment in people and character, which feels so inefficient in the short term, is the only path to exponential returns in the long term.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on this week. What if your long-term influence depends less on technological innovation and more on personal integrity? And what if the way you finish the final story you live out becomes the single most valuable narrative that inspires those who follow you?